Hello friends, this is my second video in the Django channel playlist. In my last video I just talked about the basic concept of WebSocket that makes use of only Django, and as a front-end client I was using WebSocket King. But in this video I want to extend it few steps farther because I have already created a custom Android app which is making use of OkHttp3 protocol in order to connect to Django channel. Yes, you rightly heard. As you can see over here, my physical phone is connected and I will be using an Android app which I have already created over here. Let me show you this. Here is my Android app which I will be executing, that will connect to my endpoint, and here is my endpoint. This is the endpoint which I am using, and this endpoint will actually take me directly to Django app. Okay, it is running in my local system. This is the IP address of my local system, and this is a port number of Django, and this is the ASGI endpoint. Okay, as we know that when you are working on regular HTTP protocol, at that point of time WSGI will be used. Let me take you to the project. Here is my settings.py. Let me open. We all know that whenever you are going to work on a Django application, by default WSGI gets executed, because of which you get the support of HTTP request and response. Along with that, you can work on form or REST API implementation. But when you're going to work on asynchronous communication, or when you want that the server and the client the connection should remain persistent, it should not get disconnected after the transmission is over, like what happened in case of HTTP protocol. As we know that HTTP is a connectionless protocol, whereby when the server sends a response to the client, after that it disconnects the connection. So each time the server sends a response to the client, the connection setup takes place. Whereas in case of asynchronous server gateway interface, the connection persists. And because of that reason, rather than using HTTP protocol, in case of asynchronous we will be working on TCP protocol, and that will make use of socket. Yes, you rightly heard, that will make use of socket, and that is what the video is all about, making use of WebSocket. But let me tell you one thing very interesting, that is Django by default do not support WebSocket. Yes, you rightly heard, Django by default do not support WebSocket, but to implement WebSocket you have to use a concept called channel. So with the help of channel, actually Django will implement the concept of WebSocket. And because of that reason, in the settings.py we have to activate the channel layer property, where you either, in my last video of my playlist which I have shown over here, I was working on in-memory channel. This was the option which I used, in-memory channel. But now I'm going to use Redis channel, because in the right now it is in the testing mode, but at the time of production mode your in-memory channel will not be effective, rather you have to work on Redis channel. So this channel will be used as a medium through which the communication between the server and the client will always take place, and it is the bilateral connection. That means both sides can exchange data simultaneously, just like what happened in case of chatting application or a kind of notification that been sent, which we see very often in modern applications. So for that reason you need to implement the concept of channel. Through this particular path the data communication would be taking place. So remember, when you are using the Django channel, you have to switch from WSGI application to ASGI. And as you can see over here, this is my folder name, or better to say my project name, inside which there is a file called ASGI. As we all know that by default whenever you create a Django project, ASGI file comes in, and inside that you have got an application reference. So let me take you over here. As you can see right over here, we have got the application reference, and this application reference is making use of what? It is make use of asynchronous communication. So with the help of asynchronous communication we can achieve the regular HTTP protocol, and we can also implement WebSocket. Okay, but since we are working on asynchronous communication, so by default we are not going to use a regular URL, rather we will be creating our own routes. And like what I have done over here, let me take you to my app folder, and inside this I have one app called chat app, where I'm basically implementing the WebSocket. So by default, when you create any app, we will be getting urls.py file, which is not going to be used in context to channel. Rather, I have to create another file called routings.py, and this is something what we are going to use. Even in my last video I talked about it, so if not you have seen the last video, please go and check for your better understanding. So over here you see this is the endpoint. Okay, so chat/ws/test, this is the endpoint which I have written. You are free to choose whatever endpoint you use, and this is coming from the regular expression path. So that's the reason we have got regular expression string. So this is something what we are going to use. Okay, so my client is going to connect to this particular endpoint. So the endpoint would look somewhat like this. WS stands for WebSocket, and since we are working on insecure channel, because it is right now present in my system, that is the reason it is called WS. But suppose if it was uploaded in the domain and we already have an SSL configuration over here over the domain, then we will be using something called WSS, WebSocket secure. Just like the way we have got HTTPS, in that fashion we will be having WSS, WebSocket secure. Okay, and this is the IP address of my local system, and this is a port number, and as you can see the route says that we have to go to chat, then call WS, and then the test. This is the endpoint which I have written. You are free to choose whatever you like to work on. So this endpoint is what physically will be connected with my Android application. Let me take you to my Android application now. So as we know that Android comes with an activity, so over here we have the first activity. So when I will run my application, you will be able to see the activity over here. And in Android we are making us OkHttp3 as a dependency for connecting your WebSocket. Okay, so this line, look at this line, I'm super excited. This is the line that actually connects my Django application. So this is the IP address where my Django application is connected installed, and this is the port number. Django comes up with the port number 8000, and as we just now saw, this is the endpoint. So when my app will run at that point of time, what I will be doing is that I'm going to create a singleton reference. Okay, this is my activity, and this is a file which I have created, which is of type object. Basically I want to create a singleton reference, and because my entire app will just create only one object, so we don't want that multiple object will be created. That's what we don't want. So with the help of object you can create a singleton reference of a particular resource. So hence you will be restricted within only one object all throughout your program. So this WebSocket manager, if you've come to your activity, you will see over here I'm giving a call to WebSocket manager which I have created. And one more thing I will talk about is that this particular Android application makes use of MVVM, model view vmodel. That means over here we are going to use mutable live data, and that's the reason why you can see right over here. Why am I going to use mutable live data? Because this would give you a kind of chatting application interface. You will see very soon when I will run. So let me show you once again. So this is my singleton reference, so which is responsible for setting up the entire OkHttp3 connectivity with my Django application, and this is very important and you need to understand this part very thoroughly. So when my Android application will run, it will really come to this particular singleton reference, and it will jump to the connect method, and while moving to the singleton, it will carry two parameters: the name of the context, that means the current activity name, that is activity underscore user socket, and the view model, which is going to show me the data which actually consists of MVVM implementation. So this will be transferred right over here. So when the connection comes over here, I have got the following reference. Please take a note over here. WebSocket is coming from OkHttp3, and HTTP client is also coming from OkHttp3. I could have written this one, but for your understanding that these are following references, classes which I have to use, and they all are using OkHttp3. For that reason I have written in this way, just to make you understand. So this is the endpoint that it will get hit the moment my Android app will run, and WebSocket has its own lifecycle method. Okay, so let me show you one by one the method. The first method is the func connect, and that's the reason why in my activity you saw this connect. So if I press Control and if I click over here, it will bring me to this particular connect function, as it is accepting two parameters: your activity, that is your context, and the view model, which is which is your MVVM. So item view is my MVVM. So I already have a MVVM pattern that I will show you later on, because this video I'm talking more about the socket part. So if I expand my function, then you will come across few important, very important things, and this is something what you need to understand. WebSocket has its own life cycle, both in context to Android as well as in context to Django. They have to follow this entire life cycle process. So when you're working with OkHttp3, these are the life cycle method that you have to come across. And here I've written in short, on open, on message, on closing, on closed, and on failure. These 5 methods are going to be used, and that is present inside the abstract class called WebSocket listener. So if I press Control and if I click over here, it will take me to the abstract class WebSocket listener. As you can find all these abstract methods: on open, on message. On message is of 2 types, where one of the parameter is string type, the other one is called byte string. So I'm going to use the string type. So on message, on closing, on close, and on failure, these are the 5 abstract methods that this particular abstract class makes use of. Well, as I said, that when you start your application, when you come to the singleton, first you have to create your reference of WebSocket, and then you have to create the reference of OkHttp client, and then you have to mention the endpoint as of Django is concerned. So this is the endpoint that is coming from Django. So let me take you to Django as well. So here is my endpoint for Django. So when I will run my Django server, this endpoint will be activated, and that's what the Android will be catching hold of. And then the connect method comes in picture, because I've already stated that you come and join to the connect method. So inside the connect method, the first lifecycle hook that will be getting called is the following on open. But before that, it has to this URL and this socket, they are not interconnected. So for that reason, I have to use a reference of OkHttp3 request, which is actually creating the connectivity. That means this request will tell me where am I supposed to go. So request is telling me where am I supposed to go, and on reaching over there, how would be my behavior. That is what we are mentioning right over here. Okay, so with the help of request coming from OkHttp3, I am creating the endpoint, that is a builder. So builder is creating the socket URL, and this entire build is done, and that is the request. So this request is telling me where am I supposed to go. So when my Android will start, it will create a new socket connectivity. So suppose, just imagine when you are going to run this particular app, it is going to create a new WebSocket connectivity. So that is coming from whom? From OkHttp3. This new WebSocket connectivity is coming, and in order to connect to a new WebSocket connectivity, you have to pass 2 parameters. First, it will tell you where you are supposed to go, your Django endpoint, and second, you need to tell the abstract class, which will tell me my behavior. And the lifecycle method, the first method that will come in picture is on open. So this is where the first lifecycle method will get executed. So if I expand my line over here, you will see that I am sending one message, hello from Swaroop Shah Android. This message I'm sending, where I'm sending to the backend. I'm sending to Django right over here. Okay, so this is going to give a call to a function which I have created, and if I expand this function, see over here, WebSocket.send. So WebSocket.send. So WebSocket knows where to go, and WebSocket also knows how to achieve all these things, because it is inheriting the abstract class. So it's an anonymous reference which I have created. I know I'm talking about Android over here, but this is the beauty of full stack. So if you're working, or if you want to be a full stack where the front end is Android and the back end is Django, these things as a developer you must know. Otherwise you are just only restricted to one side of the coin. That means either if you are an Android, you will be knowing about Android, you have got no idea what Django is doing, and if you are only the Django developer, you just know what Django is doing, but you don't know how the front end is behaving. Okay, so of course industry would prefer full stack, because you need to know both sides of the coin. So send method is actually responsible for sending the message to the Android. The Android will be sending the message to Django. So let me do one thing first. Let me start my backend server first, and then I will start the Android, the client end, and I will see how they are interconnecting among each others. So long I was talking about Android. Now let's switch to our VS Code to understand how Django is going to behave. So as we come to this endpoint, and this endpoint is going to take me to my asynchronous route. So as we know that when we talk about WebSocket, to be more specifically about WebSocket in Django is asynchronous. So this is the entire class which has been written over here, and this will play a very crucial role. Okay, in this particular video I will be talking more about the connectivity part, and in the due course of time I will explore you with other these functions how they are actually working on. So I have a plan to make few more videos because this is a pretty extensive content it has got. So as my route is taking me to the consumer over here, which is of type asynchronous WebSocket consumer, the first lifecycle method that will come in picture is called connect. Few minutes ago we saw in Android there was also a lifecycle method like open, on message, on closing. So on open is responsible for setting up the connection. In the same way, when we come to the Django, connect is responsible for setting up the connection. That means Android on open will come and hit connect method of Django, and they will then mutually set up the connectivity. Now while setting up the connectivity, few data need to be exchanged among each others, and that's what we will be seeing. Later on, when the connectivity is established, the connection remains permanent because we are working on WebSocket that makes use of TCP. TCP is a reliable connectivity. It will not disconnect unless and until we do it forcefully. Okay, the connection remains intact, and that's the difference between HTTP with that of TCP. So WebSocket and the OkHttp3 of Android, they need to mutually share the data, and that's what we are going to see. So let's start first the backend, and let's see how backend is going to behave. So when backend will start, we are having this information, but this will work only when Android is going to connect to this, right? So let's come to my terminal. Here is my terminal, and the way I'm going to start my backend is I will be using not Daphne like what I did in the previous video. I will be using Uvicorn. This is like just like Daphne, this is also an ASGI server, but this server has a facility to restart your web server like as you are working on. This is primarily helpful when you are going to work on the time of development or when you are doing your testing, because you have to stop your server, you have to restart your server. So the reload takes place automatically, as you can see right now over here. It will have this feature. But when you will be finally deploy in a domain, then Daphne will be preferable then rather than Uvicorn. Okay, so Uvicorn will be similar just to Daphne. It is also an ASGI server, but it has got this reload functionality, so you don't have to stop the server and restart every time you are making some changes. So that's the reason I prefer to use Uvicorn. So let me now start my server, and as I hit the enter, my backend server will actually get activated. See, my backend server is running on my local system, and I have given the IP address all 4 octet as 0 because I want that any endpoint, the Android is going to be working on some system. It will have some IP address. I want that the request can come from any IP address at this particular port number, and it will be acceptable. Okay, so that's what actually I want. So that's the reason I have kept 0000. Fine. Now see over here, my server is actually up to this, my server is not behaving anything or not changing any further message, as my asynchronous server gateway is already active. It's already started working. Okay, so now what I will do is that I will enable my Android, but before I do that, one more time let me check you. So here is my Android simulator. Let me keep it this as well, and here is my Android app, my Android Studio. As I said that when my activity will start, it will come to the singleton, and then it will come to connect, and once it come to the connect, this particular message that is connect to Django server, I'm expecting to see it. Okay, oh by the way, sorry, this particular message will be shown in the logcat of Android, and this message hello from Swarup Shah Android, this I'm expecting to see in my Django terminal. So that will give a clear indication that the connectivity has taken place successfully. So this data will be forwarded from Android to Django. In the same way, Django also need to forward some information. Otherwise, how do I know that whether it's connected successfully or not? So these are some information I will be able to see in the terminal. I will see that Android client connected successfully. This will appear in my terminal. because this is coming from Django. I will also see the connection type, although I'm working on WebSocket, but I want to show you that the connection type is all fine or not. So this will also come in the Django terminal. Then channel name, this is something very interesting. Let me tell you one thing over here. Imagine you're working on WhatsApp, and in WhatsApp you want to be a part of a group. So a group will have a group name, right? But how WhatsApp identifies you? With the help of your phone number. So that means there are two important informations are there. One, the user will be identified by its own phone number, and the group where the user is joining will have its own group name. Here also same thing. It will have two things. It will have a channel name. So channel name is basically the name of the phone number. That's how it will identify that which is the particular user, and here the channel name will come automatically and is going to be very unique. We will see that it will show us in the terminal. So once the Android hit this async WebSocket consumer, all these things will come one after the other. So it will not get fired until the client connects to our endpoint. Remember, this is the endpoint, and we already saw that Android has this endpoint. So once the client hits the endpoint, then all this message will come in the terminal one after the other. So we will see the channel name. The name of the channel is going to be pretty big, which is going to be very unique. And then the channel layer, the layer that will be created by the settings.py, the following, that is the Redis channel layer. We are using the IP address and the port number. This will also be shown right over here. This is going to be shown in channel layer. And now I'm creating one group. This is something hard coded I have given. You are free to choose a group name by your own also. So this group name I have given as test group. Whatever name you feel like you can fire, and this group name will be associated with the channel name, which will be generated dynamically, and that's going to be unique. So it's like in WhatsApp you are joining a particular group, and your phone number is the identifier of the user in the WhatsApp. So that's how this entire group creation process takes place. And your front end, that is your Android connectivity, is accepted. That means both Django and Android. Django is using WebSocket over here, and Android is using OkHttp3, which is also meant for the connectivity of asynchronous. They get mutually accepted. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to send this data. So this data I'm going to receive in the Android terminal. Yes, you rightly heard. So this data is coming from Django. It will go to the Android terminal. So right over here in the terminal, so let me open my terminal and let me clear all the information that is right over here. Here I'm going to see this entire information successfully connected to Django WebSocket. That I'm expecting to see right over here. So we understood that this information, hello from Swarup Android, is supposed to be shown in my Django terminal, and the Django message successfully connected to Django web server WebSocket is to be shown in the Android Studio terminal. That's how the crisscross mechanism is going to take place. Isn't it great, right? So now my server is already enabled. It's just the time for my Android to start, and when Android switches, the endpoint will be hit. This particular endpoint will be hit automatically. The WebSocket connection takes place because activity is connecting to the following method, and on open will get fired by default because this is the very first method that comes within the lifecycle hook of WebSocket abstract class, and this following connectivity will be shown. So this message I will see in the logcat of the Android Studio, as here I've given the title as WebSocket, so the tag is WebSocket. So I will see this message, and this message I will see in the terminal. So let me now run the code, and as I do that, please be careful. Here is my physical for connected. So let me now click on the Android Studio start button, and as it's starting, I am just eagerly waiting, and see this entire message came. Let me show you one by one. Android client connected successfully. Android client connected successfully. This message is coming from Django. See over here I've written Android client connected successfully. Let me keep the terminal over here side by side so that you can see everything very smoothly. Let me show you over here. See, this line is coming from here, and this self.scope, I told you this will show me WebSocket, that is coming from this line. Connection type, this is showing me this, and I said that the channel name will be auto generated. That what you are seeing is such a brief channel name which is equivalent to a phone number. and the channel layer which I'm using is Redis, which is there in my configuration settings.py, and the front end connectivity and backend accepted successfully. And because of successful execution, see the endpoint, the WebSocket endpoint is this chat/WTS WS and test. This is accepted. See, it is accepted. This is the IP address of my Android Studio, or I mean to say the terminal system where my Android Studio is installed. Connection open. This has been fired by Uvicorn because it has accepted the connection. That means both front end and back end has accepted successfully. And I said this hello from Swarup Android should come from Android. As we saw over here, hello from Swarup is coming right from here, and this message has been shown over here. Similarly, my backend is also receiving, backend is sending data, successfully connect to Django WebSocket, and that's what you can see right over here. See over here, this message has been shown, successfully connected to Django WebSocket. That has been shown right over here, isn't it? So that means they both have accepted successfully. And now suppose if I stop my Android Studio, if I stop my app, immediately you will say the connection will be closed. So that as long as the connection is open, the message can be sent. But just to show you, automatically the connection will be closed the moment I stop my Android Studio. I am not doing anything in my Django, but the moment I click on the stop button, immediately the connection will be closed. So see over here, connection close automatically been shown. That means both front end and back end are interconnected. The moment when the back end, when the front end is closing the connection, immediately the backend will also get a response. That means the connection been tear apart. Got it? So now I will just change my message to show you that yes, they are actually working. So this time I'm just going to write Swarup only, Swarup Android app, and nothing else over here. And the same go, let me close my Android terminal over here, and my Django terminal over here. Let me clear the screen. Let's come to my this. And here I'm going to send my message that Django successfully connected to Android. Django successfully connected to Android. That's the message which I'm going to send this time, right? So first I will start my Django server. So let me bring you over here. Let me run my application. I hit the enter. My Django application is now connected. See, I'm not getting any such message until and unless the Android Studio is also connected. So let me bring you to Android Studio. Let me start my Android now. The moment I do, please take a note over here. All the messages will come one after the other. Now look over here. The thing is getting built. The app is getting connected. And let's wait for the app to get connected. Yes, it's all connected, and see again all the messages came one by one. And here you can see Django successfully connected to Android. That's what the message I just now wrote from the backend. And look over here from the Android part. If I come over here, I said hello from Swarup Android app. That's what I received over here. Hello from Swarup Android app. So that means both front end and back end are connected successfully. My this message is coming from my Django Android client connected successfully. Just to show you that how connect method is getting called automatically. That means by default on open, this particular lifecycle method of WebSocket is getting connected at first. Because of that reason, you are able to see this following method, right? And thereafter you are seeing all the messages one by one. You saw the connection type is WebSocket, and over here the name of the channel, the channel name came automatically. That this is something which is equivalent to your phone number. And the channel layer which I am using is Redis Channel, and the group which I have created is test group. And the plus it is showing me the endpoint, and the connection is wide open because it has accepted. So that's the reason connection open. It is coming from Uvicorn. It is coming from, and Android has sent the message hello from Swarup. That message we have already seen. Great, right? I believe you have already started liking. So already the video is pretty long, and I would be showing many more stuff in my upcoming videos. Just to give you a glance that what my next video is going to be all about, I want to show you a glance, okay? And I believe you will love to see that. So here is my Android app. So let me show, since my app is running, so here is my Android app, and now I bring you to a web page which I have created. Let me reload the page, and here it is. The page is reloaded, and I'm showing you one web page where it has got name, email and password, right? Name, email and password. So I'm going to give the input name, email and password, and this is my physical phone which is connected, right? So as I provide my name over here, suppose my name is this and my email ID is swaroop.shaha.info@gmail.com and my password address is suppose Kolkata. What do you think? Can I send this data that is in Django right now into my Android? Well, let me see. The moment I press the button, immediately, oh my god, look over here, the data got populated in my Android Studio without me doing anything. Yes, you rightly heard, I did not touch my Android Studio. My physical phone is connected. I just sent the data over here and automatically that data came over here. I did not refresh anything. Alright, let me show you once again. So the name is suppose Peter, email is parker@gmail.com and the address is suppose Delhi. Okay, let me make it uppercase, it will look good. I'm not doing anything in my Android Studio, rather I'm clicking on the send button. The moment I do that, immediately the data is getting populated, and this is the beauty of socket. This is the beauty of MVVM. This is the beauty of Django channels. You rightly heard, three things are involved over here. From Android it is OkHttp3 and MVVM, while on the other hand in context to Django it is about Django channel and WebSocket. That's the reason why you are seeing data flowing from Django to Android without any Android getting refreshed. Last data I want to put forward, and I'm super excited. That's the reason I'm going for this. So raj@gmail.com and the person is from Chennai. And see, I'm just clicking on my button over here. I'm not touching my Android, and automatically one after the other the rows are getting added so smoothly without any issue, without any hesitation. And this is all happening on live data because I did not touch, I did not do anything with my Android. And that's how you see the modern chat application are being built. Well, I know this is something going to be very amazing. This is what going to be the content of my next video. So please stay tuned and do keep watch this Django channel because these are super exciting and very important in perspective to modern days application. Okay, so that's all from this video presentation. See you soon. Bye bye.